Chapter 1770 One Go to Fremons. Western Europe, an island country independent of the European continent, Britannia. On this day, the castle of the Levent family opened its gates after a long absence. The door of the main hall of the castle opened, and the sun shone in from outside, reflecting a group of figures in combat uniforms. Their clothes were a little tattered, covered with mottled bloodstains, and some were even covered with scars and were supported by their companions. But the sun shone behind them, and everyone had a proud momentum. The strongest alien organization in Britannia, the Knights of the Round Table, returned to their homeland. At the front of the crowd, a heroic man in a dark blue armor-style combat uniform and short golden hair walked forward and sat on the ancient throne. The blood on the armor had dried many times and had turned into mottled black. But when he sat on the throne, the kingly aura in his bones still made people feel the noble bloodline that had been passed down for thousands of years. Everyone's. King Arthur spoke. His voice was deep and rich, intoxicating. He extended his hand to the crowd and encouraged them with a kingly smile. "We have finally succeeded in conquering the number 6 restricted area, Atlantis, completing the greatest feat in human history. This is a great feat that no alien organization in any country in the world has ever accomplished after the end of the world. Now, we are the most powerful alien organization in the world." The wounded knights cheered excitedly when they heard this. After a long time, they finally conquered Atlantis after repeated attempts. In the process of fighting with those legendary deep-sea tribes, they also encountered many life crises. But now, they have survived successfully. This is destined to be a major achievement that will be recorded in history. Among the crowd, only Lancelot's smile was not so bright. He couldn't help but think of the Nash kingdom in the southwest region. He thought disapprovingly in his heart, "What is the first time in the world to conquer an underground civilization? The person who achieved this achievement should be me." King Arthur's eyes fell on him, and he asked with a smile, "Lancelot, you don't seem very happy. Is there something on your mind?" Lancelot said quickly, "No. Great King, I am very happy." King Arthur nodded, and he didn't care about Lancelot's little thoughts. He believed that the strong were respected, and the stronger his subordinates were, the more he would value them. It would be best if everyone was like Lancelot, with the ambition to replace him. But he also had enough confidence that no one could surpass his strength. At this time, next to King Arthur, Merlin, the court magician with shoulder-length chestnut curly hair, bowed down and said with a smile, "Hearing the news of your return, Tong also sent congratulations. And, Your Majesty, Brat hopes to talk to you." King Arthur smiled faintly. "Oh, the connection is ready. Soon." Brat's three-dimensional projection appeared in the center of the hall, in front of King Arthur. Brat first congratulated King Arthur on his successful capture of a powerful ancient underwater civilization. After the end of the world, these are the only 2 times. However, Zhang Yi and his team's action was controversial because it involved multiple organizations and used the god of death of love, which led to the destruction of the entire Nash kingdom. Therefore, when the whole world is shrouded in the threat of underground civilization, King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table have undoubtedly achieved a brilliant record. No need to be polite. Mr. Brat came to me in person. It must not just be to express congratulations, right? King Arthur said with a smile. He always had a warm smile on his face, which was a kind of affinity that made people feel dependent and trustful. Brat then talked about the changes in the outside world during this period when they were away. Fremons has been invaded by a powerful mechanical civilization. I wonder if you're interested in going over to take a look? Brat asked. King Arthur smiled and said, "We just came back and need to rest. As for the question of whether to go there He paused for a moment and then said decisively, "There is no doubt about it." His tone was firm and full of unquestionable majesty. "As a king, in this chaotic doomsday, it is my responsibility to lead my people to fight against the crisis of extinction. This is my unshakable responsibility." They had already gained a lot in the process of conquering underground civilizations, so they would not miss such a good opportunity. Brat nodded, and then told the main purpose of his visit. The president said that if you plan to go to Fremons, there is something he wants to ask you. A gleam of light flashed in King Arthur's eyes, and then he smiled and asked, "Oh, what did the president say?" Brat said, "We know that there is a big conflict between you and Chaos of Huashu country. He also went to Fremons this time. The president said that if you also meet him in Fremons, I hope you can show mercy this time and don't conflict with him for the time being. Because he is currently one of our test subjects for joining the association." King Arthur had just returned from Atlantis and did not know the details of what had happened in the outside world during this period, but he had a rough understanding of some of it. But so what? When chaos was mentioned, his eyes suddenly became sharp. "The man you are talking about is the chaos who killed my brother, boss, and then made his body into a weapon?" Brat smiled helplessly. "If I guess correctly, it should be him." King Arthur's smile became colder. "Boss, that guy, his talent is too weak, and he will die on the battlefield. I know this day will come sooner or later. It's just that as his cousin, he was humiliated in this way. This is a shame for the Levent family. I can't forgive this. There must be a night duel between him and me." Hearing this, Brant wanted to persuade King Arthur. "I hope you can wait a little longer. Now he is also a world-class alien. To be honest, he may become a member of the Dawn Knights like you." King Arthur interrupted him directly. "In that case, I have to test him even more." He supported his knees with his arms, smiled, and looked down at mild Brad in front of him. "Don't worry, I will be measured when I attack. If he really has some strength, I will consider leaving him alive. After all, as a king, I will consider it from the perspective of justice. But if his strength is too weak, I will have to kill him. After all, weak guys are not qualified to be on par with me." The world situation has changed suddenly. The changes in Fremons and the strange polyhedron that suddenly appeared in the sky have made all countries and international forces worry about the future changes in the world. They must make a choice. Either guard against it and prevent their forces from being attacked by underground civilization, or go to Fremons and join this grand feast. Danger always coexists with opportunity. If you miss this opportunity, the winner of this game will gain huge benefits, thus far widening the gap with other countries and organizations. Although Huashu countries suffered great losses after the battle, the high-level aliens have obtained considerable origins and their strength has been greatly improved. Zhang Yi broke into the territory of Bharata with only the people around him, so that the 8 tribes and the army of Bharata did not dare to pursue. This is enough to prove it. At this time, the Bharata Bajawala temple. The 8 tribes gathered here. Anand, the Bharata prophet with the title of Indra, led everyone to complete the sacrifice to the 3-phase god. Behind him, the leaders and cadres of the 8 tribes gathered here, wearing gorgeous high-caste costumes. This sacrifice is very important because Indra will predict here and decide whether they will go to Fremons. And now, the 8 tribes of the Heavenly Dragon urgently need to achieve a great victory to consolidate their position in the hearts of the people of Bharata. After all, they were severely slapped in the face by Zhang Yi in the last invasion of the southwest region. Not only have they become a joke in the international arena, but even in the country, strict blockades cannot completely block the spread of news. Many people have learned that Indra avoided the battle with Zhang Yi and let him leave. Indra stood in front of everyone and activated his ability with his eyes closed. The prophet's ability is his special ability, but it is not produced after the catastrophe. It is innate. He seems to be able to see through some hazy scenes of the future. Although he cannot see through the future completely, he can glimpse the changes in a corner of the world, which is enough for Bharata to take the lead through clues. After a long time, he slowly opened his eyes, turned around and smiled in the expectant eyes of everyone. "The 3-phase god has given me guidance. This time we will get a huge harvest in Fremons." The 8 tribes showed a relaxed smile on their faces, looking at each other happily nodding. "Great! We really need this opportunity to let people all over the world see the power of Bharata. Just being the king in the South Asian region is not enough to realize our ambitions. Lord Indra, please take us this time. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. And our dragons. Everyone chirped, with incomparable eagerness in their eyes, hoping to follow Indra to Fremons. But Emperor Shirtion smiled, and his eyes only passed over the faces of a few people. This is a big war, and the number of people going is not important but their strength. The ability index is one of the criteria. In addition, they must have rich combat experience and a smart mind to be able to deal with various changes in unfamiliar areas. He finally stretched out his hand and pointed to two people among the crowd. This time, two people will act with me, Azura and Garuda. Everyone's eyes immediately focused on Garuda Gao Chongkong and a man next to him who was shirtless, with a dark skin, but strong and evil. In the crowd, a stranger frowned and said, "We can understand taking Azura with us. But what about Garuda going there too?" There was always a fierce and indignant light in Azura's eyes. Among the 8 tribes, he was second only to Emperor Shirtion in strength. He had competed with Emperor Shirtion for this title, but unfortunately, he lost in the end. Gao Chongkong lowered his eyelids, praised the 3 gods. "Thank you for your favor, Emperor Tian." A special look flashed in his eyes. Among the 8 tribes, Gandharv stood up and said dissatisfiedly, "Emperor Tian, are you really going to take Garuda with you? After all, he is a foreigner." Gao Chongkong was able to join the 8 tribes because his strength reached Epsilon. However, everyone understood that he was an outsider. Even if it was the so-called abandoning darkness and joining the light, there were some concerns in their hearts. Seeing such an important action, they actually took him with them, and everyone felt that it was not very appropriate. Emperor Shirtion had a gentle smile on his face. This is the will of the gods. Taking them is the most appropriate choice. He certainly knew that Gao Chongkong was an unstable factor. But it was also because of this that he had always been on guard against this guy in his heart. Perhaps because of his ability, Emperor Shirtion often felt that he could not see through Gao Chongkong. Now they were going to Fremons, and he wanted to take Gao Chongkong with him. Only by keeping him under his nose could he feel at ease. Moreover, if he encountered danger, letting this foreigner act as cannon fodder would undoubtedly be the best choice. But there was one thing he didn't know. After Gao Chongkong arrived at Bharata, he had an ability that he had never revealed to anyone. That was the reincarnation deduction of the Zen seal in the Tianwu treasure wheel. The snow country train went all the way north, and after passing through several regions, it came to the edge of the northeast region. Driving out from underground, the light in front of me became bright, and what came into view was a huge and desolate snowfield. The sun was not visible in the sky, only gray and even somewhat pale clouds reflected the earth. The whole world seemed to have fallen into a dead silence, like the gray and white screen after failing a game. Deng Shintong glanced at the satellite-marked map and said, "We are almost at Bailong River." His hand was on the communication device, as if sending a message. "Soon," he said to Zhang Yi, "the contact person is nearby." Zhang Yi nodded slightly, not paying much attention. The snow country train could not cross the border, but stopped at a station in front of the Bailong River. Zhang Yi and others got off the train, and the biting cold wind blew on them. The whistling cold wind was like countless mandrills howling in the air, which made people's scalps numb. Zhang Yi had no doubt that if they did not have the most cold-proof combat uniforms and armor at this time, the cold wind alone could cut the skin of ordinary people.